What were you thinking? Were you thinking about Fireball? What were you doing there? You're just kind of like drifting off into space.
Yeah, I was just thinking about
I wonder
Fireball.
what Legend Brandy,
It's been a
Legend
while.
Brandy, Legend Bourbon.
Bourbon. We'll cut that. I was wondering if it was like, I'm like, does Legend make a Fireball? No, what I was thinking was, how does a band like Aerosmith make 3 or 4 great records,
Right.
make, I don't know, like half a dozen really terrible records, following that?
It's relative.
How do they get the label of America's rock and roll band or America's band? Like, how did they get that?
They were there before Van Halen. Maybe that's how. I don't know. There's an argument. Is it Aerosmith or is it Van Halen?
So look, man, we're here. We're chatting about Get Your Wings.
Yes. So I have a question for you.
Okay.
Have you done your homework on Get Your Wings?
I have done my homework and then some.
Oh, all right.
Yes.
Well, let's hear it. Tell me about Get Your Wings. Tell me about your impressions of Get Your Wings.
When I thought Toys in the Attic was great and started off really, really strong, I should just start by saying I love this album. And because by saying I did my homework and then some, I listened to this album probably about 4 or 5 times over the course of the week.
Oh, look at you.
Leading up to this, because
Keener.
Oh, but man, it's so good.
I know, it's great, isn't it?
It's incredible. And just go ahead. Sorry.
I just want to jump in. Do you think it's a better record than Toys in the Attic?
I do.
Oh, wow.
Oh,
okay.
Yeah.
Okay, continue.
This whole album straight through is, I mean, the fact that it was their second album, what a growth. Because I went back and listened to the first album to understand where this album came into play here. And geez, like, I know this is where they brought in Jack Douglas to produce it, but they came out firing. Like, the riffs, like everything about this album is just, it's just awesome. And just when I thought that I was going to be like, Spaced is the skip song.
Oh,
I said, Nope.
Yeah.
No, there's no song on this album that's a skip song.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So I don't know, man. That's me. I'm loving tracks, like all the tracks on this.
Okay. I am too. I think that when I think about this record, I think that it's a record that it's the sound of a band that's just finding its legs.
Yeah.
So second record, the first one, as I said last time, is okay, but it's interesting because 3 of their classics were on that record. So Dream On, Walking the Dog, and Mama Ken, right? We're all on that, but the record's a bit flat. And I think that was because the band was probably pretty nervous. It was their first album. They had a producer that they didn't have any chemistry with. And then they sought out Jack Douglas. They sought out Bob Ezrin, actually, to begin with.
Yeah.
But Bob passed them down to Jack Douglas. Apparently, Bob came into the studio like 3 or 4 times and said, maybe you should put a sax on this. Maybe you should play piano here or whatever.
Wow.
And yeah. And so just provided, a little bit of expert advice and then departed. But Jack, kind of, oversaw the record for the most part. But this is the sound of a band that is just kind of, finding their way, right? Finding their legs and really kind of gaining confidence. And the reason, excuse me, why I asked you if you thought that this was better than Toys is because I think that Toys is a better record just because they were more confident. And, I said this last time, they had toured for a year on Wings, right? So there's a lot of naivete in this record. You can hear it in songs like Woman of the World. You can hear it in songs like Spaced, songs like Lord of the Thighs, right?
And when you
Pandora's
say that,
Box.
You say that with like lyrically from Steven Tyler's point, or musically from like a band's like
instrumentally, like the compositions, like all of it. But at the same time, what I will tell you is that like the kickoff track, Same Old Song and Dance, is it's demonstrative of advanced songwriting, right? So you hear the riff is great, obviously, but then after the guitar solo, probably around the 2-minute mark, there is this breakdown, da 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 da, right? It's completely unique. You don't expect it, and it's cool. But then they go back to the main riff, but then they go back to that break again, and they put a sax line on top of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And there's just this sophistication,
Yeah.
right? Like it's really, really cool how they do it. Like the arrangement of the song is fantastic, and you see a lot of promise, and I feel like when people listen to that song, they thought like, oh, this is, this band is like on their way up. They're coming up.
Yeah.
That's what I hear.
That's what I felt actually with a lot of the songs on the album was that switch up, was the way that they would bring in these different moments that you kind of weren't really expecting. It was almost like you wanted to listen. Like for my first listen through, I was almost kind of like, hey, what are they going to do next? Just in this song alone, which I thought was really, I don't know. Again, like you say, shows the shapings of a band on the up and up, the way that they're figuring out, how to kind of lead their listener on a bit of a journey.
Yeah. Yeah.
And Seasons of Wither, I think, does a great job of that when like,
so good.
Take the wind right out of your set. Like the way he goes up on that, you're not expecting it. You're expecting, for me, I was like, oh, this is their ballad. This is their You See Me Crying. This is kind of thing that is like, a little bit slow. And then it like hits you and you're like euphoric.
See, there's this in Seasons is my favorite song from this record, I think. Next to, that one and probably Same Old Song and Dance. But the reason why is because it's a ballad, but it's not it's not a Home Tonight, type ballad. It's not like this kind of saccharine piano thing. There's a tenderness to it, but it's kind of juxtaposed against this malevolence. If you listen to the lyrics, there's a nastiness about it, right? There's a darkness, and it's cool the way that they did that. So they did it coming off Train Kept It Rolling, and they had the crowd, which is obviously that's fake. It was from another Jack Douglas recording.
Okay, I was wondering about that.
I can't remember which one it was, but
I was wondering about how they did that, because I love that about Train Kept It Rolling. Sorry to interrupt. I just want to add that in there. Yeah,
he overlaid the crowd track from, I can't remember the name of the record, but anyway, Jack Douglas he thought it would be a good idea. He put it on there, and so and then they added echo, right? So, and it's kind of really spooky. So you're wondering what's going to happen, right? So the song ends, and you can hear people like, there's a really deep echo, and you can hear people yelling, and it's dark, and then that creepy riff starts, do do do, and that was just Steven Tyler fooling around on an acoustic. And I think, I could be wrong about this, I think that he said that there was a string missing. He wasn't playing real chords. He was just making notes with his fingers. Dun, 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 dun. It's very unorthodox when you play it. It doesn't really follow a chord progression. It's just like these weird kind of notes. And that's why it sounds so cool, right? And unusual. And you hear it, and it's kind of swirling and getting bigger, and it's creepy. Mm-hmm. But like I said, like there's a tenderness about it, but there's also this kind of evil, dark thing about it.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's a fantastic song.
Well, I think, first of all, that like, even when, in thinking about Walk This Way, when Steven Tyler was sort of like tried to take credit for coming up with the drum beat for that song over Joey Kramer, and then you say that he came up with sort of the riff for Seasons of Wither, like, what was Steven Tyler like? Is he really like this gifted like musician, like in more ways than just as a vocalist?
I think that he had a certain feel.
Yeah.
The jury's out, in the sense that, a lot of the guys in Aerosmith basically said, watch out, because Steven will take credit for pretty much everything that happens on an Aerosmith record.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, I mean, like, he played piano. He's very, he's a great sense of rhythm, right? He's a great singer. And he said, one of the cool things he said about this record is that, in the first record, he changed his singing voice. If you notice, like, if you listen to the first record, he sings in a very deep voice, but then he sings in another register. So it's almost like he's trying to figure out where his voice is.
He was, for that album. I felt like from song after song, you were kind of like, who's singing this?
Right. It was weird, right? He sings very deep. But then on Get Your Wings, he finds his voice, and it's like this shrill, kind of dirty, and somebody asked me about that, and he said, I realized at that time, it's not about having a beautiful voice that's kind of operatic and note for note. It's about having attitude, and the attitude is the most important thing.
Yeah, and the way that he uses his voice as like just almost another instrument in the band to play along with, to play with the songs, even with like same old song and dance, is the instrument. Right. And then he comes in with the lyrics, like vocally, just send some way to, that kind of thing where he's playing with it, and he's, he works really well with the instrumentation.
It's funny that you say that, because you just reminded me of Black Sabbath, and after Ozzy got kicked out of Black Sabbath, Tony Iommi, that was his biggest kind of pet peeve about Ozzy after he left, is that, so he said that I would write these riffs, and basically Ozzy wouldn't invent a melody for it. He would just sing along with the notes that I wrote. Da, 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 da. And and Ronnie James Dio came in after him, and he invented a melody under the riff, and it kind of augmented the song that much more, right? But anyway, Iommi said like he was just lazy. He just sang along with my riff. So
okay, I guess it could be seen as lazy, or it's I don't know. I love the way that he can do it, because he does it later on, and I might have cheated a little bit here, Brent, and gone ahead and listened to a little bit of Rocks.
Did
Rocks. You? So and having done that, I feel like there's a lot of instrumentation and a lot in the music from Get Your Wings that shows up in Toys in the Attic and Rocks, and potentially Draw the Line, and in the Ruts. Isn't in the Ruts? Is that the other one?
It's Night in the Ruts.
Night in the Ruts.
Where that comes from?
No.
So they were so messed up at that time on drugs that apparently, this is kind of a loose kind of recollection of this, but apparently one of them said something like "right in the nuts." They meant to say that, but they said "night in the ruts." And so somebody thought it was so funny that, we should call the record "Night in the Ruts." And they did for that reason. And if you look on the record album, I think that the N and the R are like scratched out or something like that. There's like cool. Anyway, yeah.
So in having said that, though, like I think inspiring some of the instrumentals for the next few albums, like when you go and look at Lord of Your Thighs, the first thing I heard in that drum beat was "Walk This Way."
Totally.
Like the minute that song kicks off.
It's very similar, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. The thing that makes me laugh about that song is that it was kind of a cheeky, like the reason why he called it Lord of the Thighs is because it was a reference to William Golding's Lord of the Flies.
Right.
And, it was like Tyler kind of showing off and being a bit of a jerk. Right. And then because knowing that the critics would be pissed off about it, which they were, because Aerosmith wasn't supposed to be a literarily referenced kind of band. And he did that. It was like a middle finger to people saying,
yeah, I can read, or I have read.
So which song did you say you were going to skip? Was it, or there's no skips?
No skips, but originally it was spaced because it takes too long to get into. And for me, I'm just kind of like, and that's my 30-year-old, attention span going like, where's the music? What is the music? Come on.
Where's the chorus?
Exactly. Right. Get into it. But then once don't chorus, get to the chorus. Yeah. When you get into it, again, another really good song with like great hooks, it just grabs you. Like, again, once they get into it.
There's in that song, it's interesting because it's a deep cut, and I think when I hear that, there's this kind of unmistakable Aerosmith melancholy that you hear in Uncle Salty, you hear it in Spaced, and you hear it in a couple other songs too. But it's just, and this is their second record, like you just hear it, and it's unmistakably Aerosmith already.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Definitely.
They have a lot of tunes like that.
Yeah, and that's where like you start hearing the tone that they're really getting too, like the guitars.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. And then "Woman of the World," that's an old Tyler song with a band from New York. Was it Chain Reaction? Was that
I think
the
so.
band that he was in?
And it was that's just kind of that's that melancholy I was talking about. Another Aerosmith kind of tell almost is that's just pick and shovel. It's not glamorous. It's just they're grinding it out, right? Like it really contrasts with the new, there's an old Aerosmith and a new Aerosmith.
Right.
Pump, Permanent Vacation. They had their drug thing. They kind of came back from it in the 80s and had, it's almost like they had two careers, right? So you think about Love in an Elevator and Ragdoll and all those songs, completely different. And, I always think when I hear a song like Space or Woman of the World, if somebody came into the band during, for Ragdoll or Love in an Elevator or one of those other 80s hits, they must have hated old Aerosmith, it particularly Woman of the World, SOS, Too Bad, songs like that.
Okay. So why do you say that?
Well, it's because they're so different, right? Like I was saying, Woman of the World is just like a pick and shovel tune.
Yeah.
Pandora's Box is the same. Like it's just a grinder. It's grinding music.
Yeah.
Whereas, Ragdoll is like, it's a hit, right? They're writing hits, and somebody was over their shoulder. John Kalodner is like, write a hit.
Oh, wow.
And that's what I love about these early records, is that it was just them. I mean, Jack Douglas was there, Ezrin was there to a degree, but it was just the guys, and they were grinding it out. And these are, again, this album is just a grinding album.
Yeah.
That's why I love bands' early records, is because they're gritty and they're real, and it's just dudes going, okay, I kind of like that. No, I don't know. You know what I mean? It's not okay, is this going to be a hit or is this not going to be a hit? It's just like, this is what we have. Yeah. We're putting this out. Yeah. And it's real.
Yeah. I wonder how much of that though, the guys actually do they get in? Is that contractual that they have to write a hit? They got somebody sitting over them looking at them going like, write this or write that. Like what is stopping them from saying, oh, this isn't us? Like
the record company at that point. So, their career was resuscitated in the 80s. Yeah. John Kalodner, he was kind of, the hit maker. So he would go into the studio and apparently, I can't remember if it was Pump or Permanent Vacation, one of those records, he listened to that whole record. So he would just kind of sit there like this sentinel, right? And say, throw it all in the garbage, start over, and then walk out the door. And apparently he did that for one of those records. They played the entire album for him. And, it was like, okay, these are all hits. Like, all the songs, they brought Diane Warren in, like professional songwriter, and they played it for him. And he said, start over, throw it in the garbage, and walked out. That's a true story.
How do you handle that? And then like, what do you do? How do you get inspired after that to go back and write quote unquote hits? Like I
have no idea.
That's wild. And now in this album as well, they kind of had a hard time getting into writing this one, didn't they? This was something that was like, okay, we kind of stumble our way through this. They kind of knew they had a cover of Train Kept a Rollin', and then they knew they had Steven Tyler's old song of Woman of the World. And then from there, it was kind of like, well, what else do we have? And then Lord of the Thighs was one of those, we need one more, go write something in an afternoon and come back with it.
And a great tune. Right?
Yeah, definitely. And now you're a fan of Same Old Song and Dance. I love SOS as well. SOS is like also another, gritty grinding tune.
Same. It's a deep cut. It's just a grinder, right? Yeah. And that's like, you can hear the 70s vibe in that song. And that's what I like. Like, it's a song that sounds like it was recorded in 1974. You know what I mean? Like, I love that about a lot of the songs on this record. Train, I never really was a big fan of. It's an Aerosmith, or it's a Yardbirds cover, but I don't know, just maybe because it was too popular. I have no idea. Yeah, but never really was a big fan of it.
Another song though, where it gets into the drums that halfway before it gets into what feels like this live setting, where it just kind of like everything kind of slows down, and then the drums just really start picking up, and I had my son in the car while we were listening to it, and he was losing his mind. He loves drum beats. I was telling you that he, every time on Number of the Beast from Iron Maiden, he's, he hits the cymbals every time. He's 3.5, so he's feeling it, and I'm making sure he feels it. And so when that drum that drum section came in and Train Kept Rolling, I looked at him. I was like drums, and he was like,
It's cool too. It's almost like galloping, right? It's like,
yeah, it is. Yeah,
you must have loved that.
Yeah, exactly. No, you know, and I love the way that it gets into that live feel, but and then transitions into Seasons of Wither. Which, come on, can we tell the people about Seasons of Wither? You used to play this tune in a band, Brent.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, we can tell. Yes.
Okay. All right. Well, good.
So,
I just told.
Does it stop there then?
Is it? Oh yeah.
Is that it?
No. Go into it because you sang the song.
So I played in bands like off and on, like nothing. It was just, you know, we would play covers in bars. It was nothing that anybody would know. It was just cover bands, and it was cool because we had this, you know, we had commonality in the sense that we liked like Led Zeppelin and the Black Crowes and all that stuff. And so they said, hey, you know, like a great tune is Seasons of Wither. And they're amazing musicians. We played like Day of the Eagle and stuff like that. This is fantastic. And it was easy. I played a little guitar, but I did the singing. And they said, you know, can you sing Seasons of Wither? And I said, let me, you know, I'll take it away and see. And I sang along with it. And I thought, like, I can do it. Nice. And we got together and played it. And they played it note for note. And it was just like absolutely brilliant. Right?
That's so cool. Oh, yeah. Just to be surrounded by that, eh? Just like the music coming out of it. It was
fantastic.
Like, yeah. I'd forget the lyrics right away. I'd be like, "This sounds so good." I can't remember what I'm supposed to sing.
Yeah, that, you know, it's a great experience, man.
I do like Pandora's Box, though. I do like it wrapping up with this one, and I think it's a nice send off.
I do too. And again, another pick and shovel tune, but just in a 70s tune.
Yeah,
you know, it's one of those songs that you will only hear from a new band. Right? It's not sophisticated. It's just kind of funky and gritty, and you can tell that it's, you know, I don't know. It's just it's dirty and unrefined.
Yeah,
I like that about it.
Yeah. No, it's like I said, man. I listened to this album front to back numerous times, just loving the rock and roll. And I don't know if that is saying like I like simple rock and roll or what, but this has just been an experience.
I wouldn't even call it simple rock and roll. I'd call it real legitimate rock and roll. You know, it's real roots, organic, raw, central rock. Mm-hmm. It's real stuff. And, you know, the thing that I think about, you know, with this record, and also I guess the first record was kind of weird because the first record just fell flat, right? When it came out, it had, if you think about it, it had those 3 hits that I mentioned before. And nothing really happened. Like, it just came out and it was a dud. Like, nobody paid attention to it. There's no fanfare. But in essence, you know, right around this period, the first 3-4 records launched single-handedly the 80s hair rock genre. Mm-hmm. I mean, I know there was Zeppelin. I know there was Bowie. I know there was Humble Pie and Black Sabbath. But Aerosmith really launched, you know, Cinderella, Motley Crue, Rat, all those bands.
Lizzie Borden.
Yeah. Come on. Well, Lizzie Borden was, you know, Bowie, I would say Lizzie Borden. But how do you know Lizzie Borden?
Well, I was just thinking, I was watching them and they were saying, somebody asked them, they're like, why do you put scarves on your microphone stand?
Right.
And they were like, because we like to blow our nose. And then it cut to an interview with Steven Tyler and Joe Perry. And they're like, how do you feel about people putting scarves on their microphone stands? And Joe Perry's like, I think he should get a royalty for people doing that. like, what do you mean? He's like, well, you get royalties for people when they cover your songs, or when you copy your songs. Like, why wouldn't you get a royalty for them copying your style?
He's always got the funny lines.
Yeah.
Somebody asked him about, you know, 80s Aerosmith and said, like, you know, you guys are pretty gritty and you know, it's quite a difference. It's quite a contrast between, you know, like Ragdoll and Same Old Song Dance. And he said, I don't know, man. My accountant loves it.
Yeah, he is. He's a singer guy. Yeah,
he is. Oh, yeah. He's full of them.
Well, it's when you mentioned that, you know, they've kind of they helped inspire the sound of some of those bands, like you said, Cinderella. And what Steven Tyler said, he's like, I don't hear us in it.
Really?
Said, yeah, he's like, Aerosmith is Aerosmith. Yeah, sure, they could be inspired by us, but we have our sound, and these other bands, maybe people, I guess they can hear it, but he's like, that's not it. But then it went to Ozzy, and Ozzy's like, nothing's original. Everybody's copying everybody, right? And
that's true, and that's inevitable, and that's going to happen. There's only 12 notes, right?
Right.
I get it. But there are specific, look at Motley Crue lifted on Shout to the Devil, specific lyrics from Aerosmith. What's the song? Too Young to Fall in Love. Just a Punk in the Street, right? They lift that lyric from Aerosmith. There's another Shout to the Devil lyric where they actually lift the entire line from Aerosmith. No, they do. And that, but even there's bands like, those, I was talking about hair rock. There's a band called Demals. It's like a C-level, kind of like hair band, but like they lift an entire riff and put it in as like a little breakdown in one of their songs. Like you can hear it.
Yeah.
Plain as day.
I mean, it was interesting to hear that, because it was almost like you'd almost be flattered that, hey, yeah, you can hear us, like we're the like influence behind this band. Absolutely. And then when I heard Steven Tyler say like, no, like we're Aerosmith, like we have our sound, like sure, these other guys, might be playing it. It made me think like, what? Yeah, maybe maybe it's not flattering that, somebody sounds like you. Yeah. I don't know. It was a perspective that I never really thought about from a band, to say like, somebody does sound like us, and we're flattered by that.
I think it is flattering. I mean, with the Demals thing, that was like flat out theft. But well, think about it. I mean, like, so Guns N' Roses on their EP covered Mamakin, right? Rat on their very first EP covered Walking the Dog. Like Aerosmith, like I said, single-handedly launched the 80s hair rock genre practically. Yeah. They really did. And people who know would not dispute that.
I love the style too. And just real quick, you mentioned those 3 songs from the first album, and you did not mention One Way Street. That to me is one of like the best songs on the album, their first album.
I agree. I like it. Yeah, I do like it.
And I think that is almost even a precursor to like it really introducing like who they became in these following albums.
Agree. Yeah. I would agree with that. Yeah.
Not that Mamakin didn't. Mamakin was fun. It's great. It's a great tune. Dream On is Dream On. You can't
see nobody took that one on as a cover. So that's really interesting. In the hair rock genre, nobody covered Dream On. They covered Mamakin. They covered Walking the Dog. Maybe they covered other tunes from that record, but nobody wanted to touch Dream On because of that vocal, right?
Yeah, totally. And like Steven Tyler played it for Howard Stern's birthday, like I don't know, 3 or 4 years ago. Came out, just killed it. Like or it was a recording. I don't know, but like
I don't think so.
He played the piano / played the guitar. It was pretty.
I think he probably did it.
Yeah,
I think he can still do it.
Oh yeah,
he's one of the guys who still got it. I do believe that. You don't believe it?
Oh yeah, no, totally. No. I think no. Sorry.
What were you thinking? Were you thinking about Fireball? You have so much to learn on this series. So much to learn.
Okay.
Hear it? All right, Grasshopper. But the good news is that you have your assignment for next week.
What's that? What am I doing next week?
Rocks.
All right.
Yeah.
Let's do it. I've dipped into it a little bit, but I will put more focus onto it, and I'll come back with a little bit more. I already know there's some really, really hot tracks on that album.
And then see, after that, I wanted you to listen to an album, Van Halen, Women and Children First. One of the greatest rock and roll albums of all time.
Great, man. Well, I'm excited for that. I'm going to take a listen to Rocks.
Do it.
We will reconvene.
Your life will be better for it.
Yeah, and we'll talk about that, and maybe I'll have a little bit of extra knowledge on Aerosmith as well. Till next Thursday on the Thursday Night Record Club.
Yes, sir.
Love
Cheers.
It. Cheers.
Thank you very much.
Ah, God.
Fireball's so good.
It eventually just tastes terrible.